development, and history of the Panzer IV. The Panzerkampfwagen IV, Panzer IV, one of the most iconic German tanks of World War II, played a pivotal role throughout the conflict. Unlike many tanks that were either quickly rendered obsolete or replaced, the Panzer IV remained in frontline service until the war's end. Its story is one of adaptation, evolution, and battlefield success, making it one of the most important armored vehicles of its time. Origins and initial design, 1934-1936. The origins of the Panzer IV can be traced back to the early 1930s, as the German military began to rebuild its armored forces in defiance of the Versailles Treaty. Initially, the Reichswehr, the predecessor to the Wehrmacht, had two distinct armored concepts. The Panzer III, designed as a medium tank for tank-on-tank engagements, and the Panzer IV, envisioned as a support tank. The main role of the Panzer IV was to provide close support to infantry and engage fortified positions and anti-tank guns. In 1934, the German military's weapons office issued a design request to various companies for a 20-ton support tank capable of mounting a 75mm gun. After a series of prototypes and design iterations, Krupp's design was selected. The Panzer IV prototype, designated as the Versuchskraftfahrzeug 622, VK 622, went through several trials and modifications. By 1936, it was standardized as the Panzerkampfwagen IV Ausführung A, Ausführung A, the first of many versions. Early production models, Panzer IV Aus A to C, 1936-1938. The initial versions, Aus A, B, and C, were lightly armored and had relatively weak armament compared to what the tank would later carry. These early models featured the short-barreled 75mm WW2 37L24 gun, which was effective against soft targets and provided adequate high-explosive support for infantry operations. The tank was powered by a Maybach HL 108TR engine, which produced 250 horsepower, giving it a top speed of around 32 km/h, 20 mph. Armor was limited with the AUSF, having only 15mm of armor protection, gradually increased in subsequent models to 30mm. The early models were built in limited numbers and saw service during the early stages of World War II, including the invasions of Poland and France. They performed their intended role well, offering artillery support for the lighter Panzer IIIs, which were initially tasked with the anti-tank role. The shift to main battle tank. Panzer IV Ausführung D to F, 1939-1941. With the outbreak of World War II, the Panzer IV quickly proved itself to be one of the few German tanks capable of adapting to changing battlefield conditions. During the invasion of Poland, 1939, and the campaigns in France and the Low Countries, 1940, it became apparent that the Panzer III, originally meant for anti-tank duties, was undergunned against Allied armor. The need for a more powerful tank to counter better armed opponents led to an increased emphasis on the Panzer IV. The Panzer IV Ausf D introduced thicker armor and better engine performance, but the major leap forward came with the Ausf F2 model. This variant saw the replacement of the short-barreled 75mm KWK 37L24 with the long-barreled 75mm KWK 40 L43 gun. This significantly improved the Panzer IV's anti-tank capabilities, allowing it to engage and destroy heavily armored Soviet T-34s and KV-1s at greater distances during Operation Barbarossa, 1941. The F2's enhanced firepower made it the Wehrmacht's primary anti-tank platform until more specialized designs, like the Panther, could be fielded. Maturity and peak performance. Panzer IV AUSF G to H, 1942-1944. The Panzer IV reached its zenith with the AUSF G, H, and J models. These tanks featured incremental improvements in armor, firepower, and reliability, transforming the Panzer IV into a formidable main battle tank. The IOSF-G introduced the KWK-40 L48 cannon, an even more powerful anti-tank weapon, and increased the frontal armor to 80 mm. This made the Panzer IV capable of taking on almost any Allied tank of the time, save for the heaviest models like the Soviet IS series. The IOSF-H version, often regarded as the most effective iteration, added side skirts, Schürzen, to protect against anti-tank rifles and hollow charge projectiles. This version also featured increased frontal armor, up to 110 mm in some places, and a higher quality steel, making it harder to penetrate. Additionally, the suspension and tracks were modified to handle the extra weight, and many tanks were equipped with Zimmerit paste, a coating designed to prevent magnetic mines from adhering to the vehicle's surface. Despite these improvements, the Panzer IV was beginning to show its age by 1944. It was increasingly outmatched by newer Allied designs, like the American M4 Sherman's 76mm variants and the Soviet T-34-85. Nevertheless, the Panzer IV's versatility, ease of production, and combat effectiveness meant that it remained the backbone of German panzer divisions. The final models, Panzer IV, OSF, J, and decline, 1944-1945. The final variant, the Panzer IV OSF. J represented a simplified, cost-reduced version of the OSF. H. By 1944, Germany's war economy was under immense strain, and the need for a simplified production process led to the elimination of complex features like the turret traverse motor. Instead, the turret had to be manually rotated, significantly decreasing its combat effectiveness. Despite these cost-cutting measures, the AUSF-J retained most of the OSF. H's combat capabilities and thousands were still produced and deployed in Germany's final defensive battles. The Panzer IV, however, was ultimately overwhelmed by sheer numbers and the increasing dominance of Allied air power and tank technology. By 1945, the Panzer IV was largely relegated to defensive roles, and many were used in desperate attempts to slow the Allied advance on both the eastern and western fronts. Post-war legacy and influence. Despite its obsolescence by the end of the war, the Panzer IV's influence extended into the post-war period. Several captured Panzer IVs were used by other nations, including Syria, which deployed refurbished models during the 1956 Suez Crisis and the Six-Day War in 1967. The tank's design, particularly its modularity and adaptability, influenced post-war armored vehicle concepts and served as a testament to the importance of versatility in military vehicle development. Conclusion. The Panzer IV stands out as a symbol of German engineering prowess and battlefield adaptability. From its initial role as a support tank in the 1930s to its status as a workhorse of the Wehrmacht by the war's end, it remained a key asset to German armored forces throughout the conflict. Its continuous evolution, in response to changing threats, made it a formidable adversary and ensured that it would be remembered as one of World War II's most successful and influential tanks.